There were fears that Apple was losing its edge, especially after Steve Jobs, but there seems to be a bit of a buzz again.
Sure, well, it's been endless doom and gloom from analysts saying, well, after Jobs and no new product since Jobs, we're going to have a disaster. But the results tell a very different story. Apple continues to pump up its already enormous war chest. You're looking at about $168 billion that they're sitting on at the moment. And as you said, the share rallied after the announcement of its latest results, and the results themselves are really exceptional.
Is there enough innovation though? Because people are looking at the outlook, and
Sure.
I understand across the world now you can buy phones that do things very similar to what Apple does, but they're much cheaper. So this is a real test of the Apple brand, isn't it?
Absolutely, and one of the reasons is that brand is that it remains so strong, is because Apple remains a very aspirational sort of company, and their devices very aspirational devices
But can
for
it stay
consumers. Well, that's the problem. Arguably it has to do something new, and that's what sees these rumors of two possible iPhone 6s in two different sizes to try and cater to more of the market in the way that someone like Samsung does. Samsung has a device in every size, shape and form to cater to every pocket, and Apple doesn't have that same diversity.
Let's talk about the iPhone 6, because I remember a time when everybody wanted a smaller phone. Now it's the biggest screen. Will that be the most distinctive feature?
I think potentially, in that Apple's pretty much stayed on a fairly similar screen size for a very long time now. It will be interesting to see a bigger one from them. It's almost certainly going to come. What's going to be remains to be seen is whether there's going to be two devices or just one with the larger screen.
Okay, so you can do so much more on your phone.
This is the thought. And
is
of
it
course,
basically like heading towards an iPad, basically?
well, this is the argument, is also that the larger phones for some people bridge that gap. People who don't necessarily want to or can't afford to buy two devices often opt for a larger phone that can potentially tick both boxes.
Okay, the iWatch coming. I don't know if I want an iWatch. Do you?
No, not initially, especially not the first round of devices.
You're going to be the guinea pig for
Sure.
that.
Samsung's Galaxy Gear watches have done terribly, and they've been largely slated by the media, drawing terrible reviews for bad battery life and this sort of thing. And the question is really whether these devices can be designed to add real value, or whether they're just another piece of tech.
Is that not a bad omen, that the other watch is not doing so well unless Apple does it entirely differently?
Well, that's the thing, is that Apple's trick has been to take ideas that other people have worked on and make them better. Apple didn't build the first tablet computer, it didn't build the first touchscreen phone, and it didn't build the first MP3 player in the iPod. It merely made these devices so sort of well made and well thought out that consumers really took to them. And I guess it's hoping that it can do the same on the wearables and the iWatch front.
That's interesting, because I guess in our minds Apple is such a leader. Let's talk about the tablets now.
Sure.
And Apple not doing well in tablets. So can it still be in this market? And people are talking about a phablet coming out in November. And what on earth is that?
Well, first, in terms of the tablet side of things, iPad sales slowed in this quarter compared to the same quarter last year. And I think that's also in part because tablets don't behave in quite the same way as phones when it comes to consumer habits. Consumers don't upgrade their tablets nearly as often as they do their phones. The average for handsets is every 2 years because of contracts, but people are hanging on to their tablets for longer. And so you see that, you're not selling as many in the same period. As far as a phablet goes, that's really just an industry term that's been adopted for phones that are so large that they're somewhere between a phone and a tablet.
Okay, so that could be one of the new
iPhone
anyway.
6s,
Okay.
yeah.
Tim Cook was talking about this incredible pipeline of new products coming up that he can't wait to show the world.
Indeed.
And I guess you have to be very careful not to disappoint people after saying something like that.
Absolutely, and arguably for the sort of fans, there has been a lot of disappointment in recent years because there really haven't been any new devices. We've seen a smaller iPad, but it's still an iPad. We've seen some new phones in different colors, they're still the same phones. What Apple really needs, at least from the fans' perspective, is to release something really new and innovative and a wholly new product range that they can take to.
Can you, as a commentator, only decide when that phone comes out, or is there enough information out there already to kind of gauge where they are in terms of innovation, or are you all waiting to actually see what comes?
I think we like to wait and see. We don't like to guess on these fronts, but also Apple's can sort of bide its time to some extent because it's enjoying such immense enormous growth in emerging markets. You know, as we saw in the lead at the beginning, China is a huge growth market for it. And Cook was also quoted as saying that they expected China to perform well, but not as well as it did.
There's a lot of competition in China as well.
Absolutely. And so there's still a lot of growth to be had for Apple in these sorts of markets. And that allows it to perhaps wait a little longer and make sure that whatever it does put out is really innovative and really attention-grabbing, because what it doesn't want is a misfire.
My final question is, what about the corporate market that Apple is ostensibly trying to get into?
Well, so this is a very contentious issue. Apple's recently announced a partnership with IBM, and of course, sort of go back 30 years to 1984, and Apple actually ran an ad campaign slating IBM. But now they've partnered up to try and get Apple's mobile devices into corporates. You know, Microsoft absolutely dominates the desktop and laptop space when it comes to large companies, and so Apple's hoping that it can make its iPhones and tablets more appealing to business users by providing apps and services designed by IBM that complement business needs.
Well, I'm going to tell the SABC that I need a business tablet. Thank you so much for your time. That was tech analyst Craig Wilson. Well.